Welcome to another episode of Pistons of Fury. In this episode, the Mustang finally leaves the garage. So what's up, guys? New episode. We are on our final push here with the Mustang. So what I need to do today is my battery is actually arriving, I believe, right now. I've got a truck outside. I don't know what it is, but hopefully it's my battery so I can continue on my gauge work. But first, before I do that, I'm going to knock out, I have steering stops that I need to modify that are artifacts from my Granada disc conversion, and then I'm going to handle my alignment too. So alignment, steering stop modification, and then I'm back to the interior because that's the last thing. So I'm going to get started. Alright, so this is my battery. I'll do a quick unboxing and then we'll get to work for real. This is the fun part though. So I just have to give a shout out to Summit Racing. So basically what happened is I pulled up to O'Reilly yesterday. I looked in the parking lot on my phone for the battery type because I wanted to make sure I got the right type because I didn't have the original with me. And I ended up seeing one of the ads on Google was for Summit Racing. Optima red top battery for $160, free ship, out the door, no taxes. Because I'm in California, they've got a warehouse in Nevada, so it's like super fast shipping, super cheap because there's no taxes or anything. So I looked up on O'Reilly, they've got the same battery for $220, so I figured I was not going to pay an extra $60 just to have it that day. So anyway, pulled the trigger on this order, and basically because Summit Racing is in Nevada, this thing showed up free shipping overnight because I ordered it yesterday, and it was FedEx ground, and it's about 10:30 in the morning here in California, so basically like FedEx first overnight, and it was free and it was cheaper than I could buy here, so props to Summit Racing for that. And this is cool because I've never actually bought one of these. I've always just kind of cheaped it out using the batteries that are available at the local stores. So this is my first Optima battery. I've got a top case of some sort. That, and then these things are heavy. Red top Optima battery. Awesome. That is great. Got some more Summit stickers. Put them somewhere. Actually, no, I've got like 1,000 of these things, so I'm probably not going to put those somewhere. Alright, so done with the box. Alright, so these Optimas are closed cell. If you don't know anything about batteries, that means there's no water to fill up or leak out, no vapor that comes out. So I've actually got this battery mounted in my trunk. So this is actually the better battery for me because it's not going to spew up any kind of vapors or anything that's going to eat away at the paint inside my trunk. So pretty happy about that. I'm going to leave this here for a little while and get back to it after I get the front end stuff done. Alright, so I thought I'd do a quick tour here of my front suspension just because I haven't done that before. I actually haven't, since I started the channel, I haven't actually done any front end work. So, quick overview. This is a Granada conversion, so very popular for these early Mustangs and Comets, and Falcons for that matter. So what this basically is, it's 11-inch front disc conversion from a 75 through 78 Granada or something like that, late 70s Granada. Sliding calipers, single piston. It's nothing special, but it's better than the drum brakes that came on these cars, and it's really cheap. What I also have here is a half-inch spacer, just because my wheels had too much offset or back spacing, however you want to call it. And I also upgraded the studs in the rotor. So yeah, that's the brake setup. In terms of front suspension here, everything in here is new. as in not having been driven before. Not new as in chronological order. Anyway, so right here, this is a roller bearing strut tower. I forget the actual name of the thing. It's a coil spring seat, roller bearing coil spring seat. That reduces a lot of the friction. I also have some Bilstein shocks from Race Car Dynamics, specifically made for this car. The upper control arm is stock, although you can see right here that I've actually done some clearancing, because when you move up to really wide 16-inch wheels on these cars, you have some interference here with the ball joint, so I've cut some off of that. Let's see, what else? Lower control arm is Moog. It's just all standard stuff, all new. And then the last piece here, which you can kind of see, is this strut brace. So the original cars had this kind of a big long metal bar and 2 rubber bushings on each end. And this is actually threaded rod, and there's no rubber bushing, so this thing does not move. So basically what happens in the old suspension is when you brake into a corner and you're turning, this whole front assembly would flex and go with that rubber bushing. Now that it's solid and there's beefy pieces in there, it's not going to move at all. So it really improves the handling of the car. Remains to be seen how it works in the real world, but from everything I've read, it should be pretty legit. So there's something here on the back of this. It's really hard to get an angle on that. Let me see if I can do it. Yeah, so this piece right here with the 2 bolts, that thing, I've got to pull that off, or yeah, probably pull it off, or maybe turn the wheel so I can get to it and grind about a ½ inch off. So when you do the Granada support, whoops, you are supposed to cut a ½ inch off of that because of the geometry of the steering knuckle from the Granada. It basically changes your turn radius and really limits it. And I didn't know that when I first did this swap. Documentation back in the 90s was not as good as it is now. So I'm just going to go back and do that, so I've got better turning radius. I also need to check the clearance of this wheel to make sure that I don't hit that ball joint cover or upper control arm again. Anyway, yeah, gonna get started, see if I can cut it while it's still in the car so I don't have to disassemble. That would be great. If I have to pull it off, no big deal, it's just a little bit more of a pain. So yeah, gonna do that. Alright, so probably saw me doing some additional grinding when I fixed those stops that stop the wheels from turning left and right. I forget what they're called, steering stops, I guess. I had to clearance a little bit on the driver's side, the upper control arm, because it started to rub against the wheel. So for some reason it doesn't happen on the passenger side, just the driver's side. Yeah, so I had to do that. Everything's good now, tested out both sides, so that's good. So I'm going to move on to doing my DIY alignment. So I'm using this kit. You can buy it on eBay. Let's see, it's the 10 Hulsen Automotive Camber Measurement Kit. So this will actually do toe, it'll do camber, and caster as well. So this is like the upgraded kit. This is a little bit more than his base model kit. Highly recommend it. This I actually bought it from eBay. It was like $225, something like that, and didn't use it for a couple months. And then I opened the box, and there were a bunch of parts missing. And I emailed him, you know, months after the fact, and he just basically sent out what I needed, no questions asked. So cool guy. One-man operation. I'm pretty sure he just designed and sells this kit himself. So really cool. Highly recommend it. I'll drop the link to it in the description below the video. So I'm gonna get set up. I need to get the car off jack stands. And basically how this works is you have 2 plates under each of the front wheels, and what I'm using is linoleum tiles with some bearing grease sandwiched in between. So that really helps the wheels move. You can technically do it without some kind of plate under the tire, but it's just really hard to turn, especially with a car like this that has like manual steering and you can't turn it on or anything. So I'm gonna get that set up, and then basically you use these toe plates on each wheel, and it has a little gauge here that tells you the angle, and then there's a whole series of instructions that I'll get into as I do it and try to describe what I'm doing. So I'm gonna get set up here. Alright, so basically the way I have it set up is, and I've actually done the camber adjustment prior. There's some shims that go in the upper control arm, so you have to adjust those, put the right amount of shims in there. It's kind of a pain. So I've done that before. Sitting at 0.8 degrees. Camber, is that right? 0.85. Yeah, it says 0.8 degrees of camber. So this would be 0. Yeah, so 0.8 degrees of negative camber. I'm gonna switch over to the other side, make sure that's close. Mustangs set up for the street are supposed to be, I think, around 1. I need to check the internet on that, but that should be where it's at. Okay, so I've got my camber set. We're good from the last time, so thank God I don't have to go in there and play with those shims again, because it's just a giant pain. So basically where I'm set up is that on the driver's side I'm at 0.8 degrees negative camber, and on the passenger side I'm at like 0.65 degrees negative. I think that's as close to as in spec as I'm going to get without having like true adjustable upper control arms, where I can really fine tune it. You know, again, this is shim based, so it's like 1/8 of an inch shims. That's the smallest amount. I've stacked them in there, and that's just, I think, for a 50-something-year-old car, that's as good as we're gonna get. So next thing I need to do is I need to adjust the caster. Now, normally on these old cars, if you don't have these adjustable strut rods that I do have, you would have to then go in and play with your shims again. So you basically, there's two stacks of shims, and you would have to basically take one out of the back or one out of the front, depending on whether you're positive or minus caster. So I'm going to use my alignment kit here. There's a separate set of instructions for measuring that, and once I figure it out, I will do a recap and explain to you what I did. So yeah, I'm going to figure that out now. Okay, so here's where we are. Got the caster registered. I'm gonna start that over. Got the caster registered. Oh my God, that's not even a word. Got the caster measured on both sides. So the way you do that is you basically have this little paper wedge, which shows you when the wheels turn 20 degrees. So you basically turn it, the wheel that you're working on outboard, so turning to the outside 20 degrees, take a measurement, and then you turn it 20 degrees the other way, facing inboard, and you measure it again. You take that value, multiply by 2, and that's your caster, okay? So, got caster value of 3.6 on the driver's side, and I am straight up at 0 degrees caster on the passenger side. So I'm gonna try to adjust my adjustable strut rod under here by shortening it to increase the caster. That'll bring the wheel towards the front of the car, and I wanna get it to try to match the driver's side. So, typically with these cars you can't get that much positive caster because the strut rods are not adjustable. You can only use shims, but since I have these adjustable strut rods, I'm going to try to get as much positive caster as I can, because when you have positive caster, that makes the wheel come back to center a lot quicker than if you don't. So if you have 0 degrees caster, the wheel is going to you're going to have to recenter it yourself when you're driving. If you have positive caster, that's up to 5 degrees, is, you know, typically what they use for like road racing, things like that. It comes back to center really quick. So I'm gonna err on the side of having more positive caster. We'll see how it drives. I can always adjust it, but I need the passenger side to match the driver's side, so I'm gonna get under there and do that now. Okay, so good news is the caster adjustment I made on the passenger side did not affect my camber, so that's all good. So we're all set with identical caster on each side, which is good. Camber is really close. We're about 0.2 degrees off. I don't think I can do that with shims, or at least I'm not going to right now. At least if it makes a difference on the road or tire wear or something, I'll probably go back and change that. So now I just need to adjust my toe in. So I basically have to use both plates for that, and it's going to be some measuring side to side. Kit includes 2 tape measures to do that, so it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to keep filming this side because the other side of my car is kind of pressed up against the side of my garage with toolboxes and stuff. So I'll keep filming this side, but it's going to happen on both sides. Same thing though. Alright, so I think it's all set. Basically what happened is I just kind of eyeballed it, but it looks like this tire was actually towed out a little bit and the other one is slightly towed in where it needs to be, so I just adjusted the tie rod on this side, pulled the front of this tire in a little bit. Now they both look identical. Everything looks straight, the alignment, the toe in combined on both wheels, because that's all this kit measures, is 1/8 towed in. So that's good. That's spec for the parts I have on here, according to what the internet says, guys who have the same setup. So that's all pretty good. The only disadvantage to this kit is that it doesn't do individual toe-in. So I don't know if, I know my combined toe-in between the 2 wheels, I don't know the individual toe-in. I think there are kits that have like a laser thing and you put plates out in front of it. But this is DIY garage alignment, so we don't have any lasers here. No lasers, no lasers. Yeah, so anyway, I think we're good here. I think this is good. I'm done with the suspension and front end. Got to tighten these bolts up, the lug nuts for the wheels, and then I get to install my new Optima battery. Awesome. Okay, so it is the next day, and my big task for today is to get this gauge panel fully hooked up, verify it's working. That also means starting the car, because I'll need real live signal for stuff like the oil pressure and the water temperature, so I need to make sure my sensors are compatible and do all that. First thing though is I have to get this tachometer done and out of the way. So the first piece of that, so here's what I've done, just a little bit of background on this. I've taken I mimicked the design of the old Smith's gauges that you can find in old Jaguars, old MGBs. If you just do Smith's rev counter, Smith's tachometer on Google, you can find images of something like this. I really like this color-coded style. I tried to use the typography to match the period of the car, so this font is like a Gothic, I think, in the Gothic family. So it's something that would have been used, and it looks a lot like the original gauges. So what I've done is I have this laser printed transparency, and what this is basically going to do, it's going to go on top of this, which is a just inkjet printed on some thicker paper. I actually printed twice over this to get the nice dark black. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to take this, I need to adhere it and overlay it on top, so I'll have a nice clear coating on top and then a thick black on the back. So basically what happens is, assuming I can adhere it and get it aligned correctly, the thick paper will shine through from the back, and then will not shine through where the black is, so it'll block the light, and it should look pretty good. But the trick now is I'm going to use some spray adhesive. I can't think of a better way to do it. So basically it lines up and it looks like that. But I'm going to have one shot. I don't think I have a whole lot of flexibility with this spray adhesive, so I could totally screw it up, and I'm going to do that live on camera, so that should be awesome. Yeah, once I get this done, I can put the tack back together. I'll need to punch a hole in the middle for the needle. But yeah, this is the thing that's been holding me up. So once I do this, I'll have to make a mounting bracket for the tack, and then I can continue troubleshooting, not troubleshooting, but just getting the gauges to work. So I'm gonna get started on that. Okay, so here's where we are. I've got my gauge panel pulled back out of the car. Have the tack face all set, so tachometer is done. So now what I need to do is basically this comes in behind this panel that I have here, and just kind of wedges itself in there. It's tapered, so it can get in there nice and snug, and that's basically what it looks like. So what I need to do is build a bracket. So it's basically a hole or a piece of metal with a big hole in it and some little brackets that come down along the side that I will then tap in right here and just drill through with some little screws or bolts or something like that. So I've got to cut that out of sheet metal. I've got to basically trace a circle and then do two little arms out here that I can then bend down into like an L shape. So yeah, just gonna figure out a way to do that. Yeah, got to work with some really thin sheet metal, so not really looking forward to it, but it's the last thing I need to do to get this actually done and in the car, so got to do it. Alright, so here we have it. This is officially the world's ugliest bracket. Definitely the ugliest bracket I've ever made. Jigsaw to cut very thin sheet metal like this, super sketchy. Yeah, wouldn't recommend it. Gotta get some sponsorship dollars going on this thing, get a plasma cutter or something. Anyway, I'm gonna test fit this and then probably bend it to shape. Good thing is nobody will ever see this, ever, unless they're just assembling the dash, and that means that I'm probably dead because I'm never selling this car. Anyway, gonna continue and try to get this fitted here. Okay. Alright, so here it is. I have my mangled world's ugliest bracket on the back there. But everything's in. It looks good. Just gotta clean up these lenses a little bit. And then I'm gonna attach it to this chrome bezel. Alright, so we're back under the hood where I left off yesterday. Not sure how much of that I actually filmed, but basically I got to a point where I needed to start the car back up to test the gauges because I have everything hooked up in my new gauge pod. And one of the things that I realized when I was replacing this water neck is that my distributor hold down bolt had come loose, and that pretty much screwed up the timing. And I've had the timing set on this car for such a long time that I don't even know where the mark is on the balancer because it's rusted over. That's how long ago I set the timing on this car. I just kind of set it and forget it, or forgot it, whatever. So now I need to reset the timing. So I've got to pull spark plug number 1, get the engine at top dead center, pulled out my old timing light. Doesn't work anymore because it's like 30 years old. So I went and picked up a new one at Sears. Got a Craftsman digital tachometer timing light thing. So excited to use that. But anyway, I've got to reset top dead center. I've got to put a mark on the balancer, and got to retime the engine so it actually starts and stays running. I wasn't able to get to continue to run in a really healthy state yesterday. So hopefully I have better luck today. So I'm going to get started on that. Alright, so basically what I did is I unplugged cylinder number 1 spark plug, felt with my finger, see when the piston reached top dead center, and then I cleaned off my balancer here, and you can actually see that after I cleaned off, I actually did have a mark, and the balancer is correct. It's right at 0. It's got markings on it, so that's all good. So now I'm going to go ahead and hook up my new timing light and crank it over and then see where we are. Alright, so that's a wrap for this episode. Lot of progress, a lot of random things that I did. I wish I could have broken them all up into separate episodes. I mean, the alignment could be an episode in itself. That interior stuff could have been. Yeah, so anyway, good news is, as you probably saw, the car runs. Drove it up and down the block. I have no insurance on it. I'm still waiting for a call back from my insurance agent, so I couldn't actually take it off the street, which was kind of a little anticlimactic after all this 20 episodes in, or 19 episodes in, wherever I am. But anyway, it runs really well. I can't wait to get it out on the open road. I need to do some more road testing. But it's basically in a spot now where I can take it up to the DMV so they can verify that it's now a real vehicle and that I can register it, so I'll be able to get plates and stuff like that. So I'm going to be doing that. But yeah, big milestone. So where I ended up with the gauge panel on the interior of the car is basically, I don't know if my tack situation is going to work. It was a valiant effort. It was a good try. It was a lot of work. I wish I hadn't spent so much time on it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a really good used actual Smith's tachometer to replace that. I think just with all the disassembly and reassembly, I think that the auto gauge tack that I had in there is just done. It doesn't want to work anymore. So that's where I am with that. So I think I'm going to replace that with the real Smith's one. Then that'll be done. Got a few more small details in the car, but I can fix those up as I'm driving it. So really looking forward to getting the car back on the road, registered, insured, and driving. So I'm gonna cut this episode off here. Next couple episodes are gonna be a little sporadic. We'll have maybe a smaller episode and then kind of a outtakes episode from my Coronet wagon. So that'll be the next couple weeks. I've got some people coming in to stay at my house here, and then I'm leaving town, so juggling some stuff. But anyway, that's the next couple weeks. Hope you liked the video. Hope you liked the progress we're making on this car. Gonna do some driving stuff. We'll be getting some new content of this car in a couple weeks. But anyway, if you liked the video, throw me a like. Please subscribe to the channel. Got some new project stuff coming in the next couple weeks. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you in a week or two, something like that.